Welcome to the Upshot, Multi-World Disc Golf's podcast about the latest in the disc golf worlds. I'm the editor, Charlie Eisenhood. Joining me is Josh Mansfield, and we have concluded a tremendous 2022 Worlds Week. Paul McBeth has won his 17th career major title. He is one shy of Ken Climo's record 18. It is McBeth's 6th World Championship, and he gets an island hole playoff revenge after last year falling to James Conrad following the holy shot that Conrad used to tie McBeth up on 18. And Josh, quickly, let me just say, Kristin Tattar wins her first Worlds, and it was in dominant fashion. We're going to get into that. One of the most dominant performances that we have ever seen at an FPO World Championship. She wins by 8 strokes over Henna Blomroos. McBeth winning in a playoff, a one-hole playoff over Erin Gossage. Josh, what an incredible week and some electric moments in the final round in MPO.
Without a doubt. And I think that's the biggest thing that everybody was hoping for coming into this World Championship was an opportunity to see amazing golf on performance, tight battles, drama, and excitement. And it's delivered again. And that's something that McBeth has been one of the feature players of 2 World Championships in a row now. And it came down to just as dramatic a fashion. It's heartbreaking to see Erin Gossage's drive land on the island, but OB, especially because it felt like he was trying to keep it close after he misses the putt in regulation during the final round that would have kept him a stroke ahead. And so lots to go into on that, but just an incredibly exciting weekend. And I have to admit, Charlie, you picked not only Kristin Tattar, we both had Kristin, but you picked Paul McBeth to win it. An impressive feat picking both world champions. I have, I doubted the beast, and it was a mistake. I didn't have him on my podium. It had been a slow season.
Josh.
I know. The page off the podium was the right call.
10 years in a row, McBeth has finished in first or second place at Worlds, and you left him off your podium.
I left him off, but it definitely writes a story of dominance for McBeth that overrules any talk of the longest stretch in his career without a win, and the heartbreak last season, and the increased presence of young players. I mean, lots of things that we're going to get into that bring bring into question that idea of where's McBeth in the sport relative to an ever increasing competitive field, and the answer is he's still on top. And I'd been a doubter. I'd thrown speculation. I never said washed, mind you. I've always thought he was excellent, but I definitely thought that the world didn't revolve around McBeth, and that's at least for one more year not true.
And we talked about it during the week on our Rapid React shows for subscribers. Mm-hmm. If McBeth goes on to lose and Paige goes on to lose, do we talk about a new era? And no, the era's not over.
It's not over.
It's not over. Like, McBeth is still the best player on the planet. Mm-hmm. And that, sure, he's had a less impressive overall season than he's had in the past. But at the end of the day, when the tournaments matter most, he shows up. And I just want to go back through really quickly and look at McBeth since 2019. Okay. So let's go back to 2019, look at the majors. European Open 2019, he wins it, right? Mm-hmm. That's our first, that 5,000 people coming out for the final round, mm-hmm. like incredible crowds in Europe. He gets the win. He comes out to the Worlds that year in Peoria. He wins it. Okay, so that was the year,
right, Charlie?
Emerson Keith, World's Whisperer, Ricky making the big charge late, me wandering around out there on the fairways. It was a McBeth, convincing performance. Mm-hmm. Now, yes. He gets hurt, and he's terrible at USDGC, finishes 64th, all right?
Yeah.
Then we come back, 2020, COVID year, We don't have any majors except USDGC. McBeth finishes 5th. Weird season. Okay. Then he comes out, and in 2021, we have 2 majors. We just have Worlds and USDGC.
Yep.
He should have won Worlds, and James took it from him. Now, you can criticize him if you want for missing the island in the playoff and not being able to bounce back and get the win in the playoff. But you know what? I mean, how do you, like, mentally, that's tough. Like, let's be honest, even for a player as resilient as McBeth, who had made the island all those times on 16, you know, you're in your mind, you know, you're just laying up for the win. And then James Conrad hits this insane shot. And like, how do you not be affected by that? And I think he probably was. But he should have won, and he did not. Then he goes to USDGC and he wins it in a playoff over Kyle Klein. Then we go to Champions Cup, and I don't know, like an event that he didn't necessarily care about. First year of the tournament, I think we can all agree it's probably the one with the least prestige of any of the majors this season, and that's fine. I mean, it's still a major. He finished top 10. Wasn't his greatest performance, although he did shoot maybe the best round of the year, setting the course record 14 down at WR Jackson. Then he goes to European Open and should have won it. He shot a 1072, which is his best event rating since he won 2019 Worlds with a 1074. He was insane. Eagle was just a little bit better. And like, it's just an incredible battle. And then he comes out and he races a 3-stroke deficit for the first time in the history of Worlds. 23 straight people had won Worlds with at least a 2-stroke lead. And Aaron Gossage becomes the first not to do it because McBeth took it away from him with the most heroic pair of shots that you've ever seen on hole 17 in the final round. And wow, we're going to talk about that in a second. But then he goes on to win. McBeth at the majors is still the favorite every single time he takes the course. Period.
I think you're right. And I think this year, especially at Worlds, it felt a little bit different because Ricky was back in form and just playing lights out and had some incredible performances. You know, we've been talking about Ricky as the favorite, outright favorite coming into World Championships. and it felt different because it was Ricky. In previous seasons, when it's other players, when other players are hot, it always feels a little bit different. But when you have another guy who's a multi-time major winner who has been playing in form, wins the tournament, wins tournaments prior coming to this event, and while not a great
playing at a Worlds in Emporia,
playing at a Worlds in Emporia, you're right, where he won his first major. There are lots of things that just felt like it was Ricky's year again. And the fact that not only it was not Ricky's year, but it was McBeth's year, it just means that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who it is that's up against him. And I think that it's telling that the people who are up against him now, the names have been very different every time. Chris Dickerson, Kyle Klein, James Conrad, Aaron Gossage. That's telling of what the landscape around McBeth looks like. But it hasn't changed what McBeth looks like. It hasn't changed him. It hasn't changed his performance, and he has been the constant at majors and takes down another world title, his 6th. I saw somebody, I don't remember who it was. I saw Twitter. Someone tweeted on Twitter that, I hope that they don't have a 6 claw because that's not really a thing. And I was like, that's an accurate statement. I'm curious what the claws look like. I think like a 3x3 kind of thing would look pretty good, but
I mean, 6 claw, velociraptors have 3 claws on each side, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
But like that, yeah, the 3x3, like 2 separate
3 and 3
sets,
rather than 6 in a row. I think that's the right.
I think that's probably the right call. But man, what a nice problem to have. Shoot, I ran out of fingers to count with.
I saw somebody say, so the PDGA website is updated with our new champions on the sidebar. So congrats to both McBeth and Kristin. That last year they had the players hold up the number of titles that they'd won, and they didn't do that this year. But I saw somebody say that they should have. McBeth obviously would have had to use 2 hands. Somebody was like, I can't wait until he has to use his big toe to hold up the number of major wins that he has. And maybe he'll get there. I mean, are you really going to rule it out? I was just looking at oldest ever Worlds winners. Climo won it when he was 38 back in 2005. McBeth turned 31 this year. So, you know, he has 6. Can he get that far? I mean, I doubt it.
5 more?
I doubt it. But, you know, you bet against him. You said he wasn't going to win a major this year.
Bet against.
I bet $100 on Aaron Gossage after the 4th round.
Yep.
That's what I deserve, you know. McBeth's going in my pocket on 17 and saying, thank you very much. Let's just talk about that hole. Because, look, we talked about it a bunch in the Rapid React show. We're not going to go through every single moment in the final round because go and get a subscription and listen to that show. You know, Aaron Gossage opening up with a missed low putt on hole 1, which kind of foretold some putting struggles for him that I think opened the door for McBeth. And McBeth, like, choosing to copy some of Gossage's lines, both, I think, because it's a tip of the cap to Gossage for how well he was playing the course and like how intelligently he was attacking a country club, but also to actively take the box, throw Gossage's shot and be like, yeah, look, I just parked it. Now you go on the same line. And like, that's some head games. And it's hard to argue that it didn't work out. So 17, Gossage throws a perfect drive, par 4, and McBeth hits a tree like pretty early in the fairway, and he is way back there. I mean, he's 500 feet from the basket probably, and he's like off the fairway to the right side. There's trees in his way. There's all that OB green in front of the basket. So like if you're trying to drive it to the basket, not only do you need to throw a really high power, high difficulty shot, but if you come up even a little bit low, you're going to go into the out of bounds.
Calvin went OB, didn't he?
I think he did. I mean, Calvin all round. I mean, we're going to have to talk about Calvin later because it's another bad final round performance at a world championship from Calvin. Go ahead.
What's significant though is that Calvin goes up right before McBeth, throws a very similar shot through the same gap that McBeth has to hit, and he skips OB.
Yes.
So, you know, that in terms of just like the mental nerve, it's additionally the fact that McBeth just watched someone goof that shot.
And it's do or die.
Right.
It is do or die right here with Gossage with, they were tied at this point, right?
Yes. They're tied at this point. And everyone.
And Gossage is in perfect position. I mean, Gossage he couldn't be in a better position off the tee shot.
And everyone had been talking all weekend about how great Gossage is on 18 because his forehand game sets up so well for 18.
Right.
So
and he would go on to take a stroke off McBeth on 18.
Yes.
But let's get there.
Anyway,
17, McBeth out of position, way back, has a small gap to hit, and has to throw a forehand. And absolutely blasts a forehand 450 feet, keeps it safe. And like if he goes OB there, it's basically over. It's basically over. I mean, Gossage at that point doesn't even need to make a putt, which he didn't make on 17, because he's going to have the stroke going into 18. And, you know, it's, of course, who knows? Counterfactual. Gossage plays it more safe on 18, probably. Maybe McBeth clutches up on 18.
Sure.
But McBeth gets it up there. He has a look. He has not putted well the whole tournament. He has been clearly, I mean, there's visible bruising on his calf. His left shoulder's messed up. He's banged up. He's not playing his best disc golf. And yet, I think the whole world knew he was going to make that putt. And then he made the putt. An insane putt from about 70 feet. And just puts it in, right side chains, low, just over the cage. No chance of it spitting out. And is, you know, giving us the McBeth roar that we saw from him at USDGC last year. I mean, just an immense performance to get, not only get up and down from being out of position, but to get the birdie from where he was. I mean, it's like, you could put the disc there for all of the players on tour and say, all right, you must birdie from here. And what percentage of them is going to birdie in a no pressure situation, right? It's not Worlds, right? It's just some random, here's a challenge. It's like a little challenge. It's going to be very few. Sub 5%.
Yeah.
I mean, when he hit the tree, I said in the Ultra Disc Golf Discord, he can't birdie from there.
Yep.
And I don't really think that's a crazy thing for me to have said.
You also then said it was a 5% chance he makes the putt.
I did say that.
Yeah.
But I think that goes to show you that he made basically a 5% upshot and then a 5% putt. And you can do the math on the odds of those things happening back to back. It's just an amazing moment from a player that's given us many, but it ranks up there with the best of them.
You've got to add a little bit more contextualization, though, of Paul McBeth let's go back 2 holes before that. Hole 15.
Yes.
One of the easiest holes on the weekend. It is a stock hyzer downhill 430 feet. Must birdie. One of the easiest holes on the weekend. I'm going to pull it up right now. We'll just go for the day because that's all UDisc gives us right now. But if we were to pull up on the day, hole 15 ranks as the 3rd easiest. Hole 14 is at negative 6.5 strokes. Hole 6 is at negative 5.5 strokes. Hole 15, negative 4.5 strokes on the day. So that's after the cut.
But the fewest bogeys of any hole on the course.
Yes.
Literally.
Yes. That by far the easiest. And I'd be willing to bet if you were to go back, I mean, the bogeys on that hole just are not present. McBeth throws a terrible shot. It's well inside. Hits
probably
the tree.
His worst shot of the round.
I'd believe. Yeah, I buy that. That's probably accurate. It hits the tree, drops down OB, and that hole. I actually love this. I saw some people critiquing this hole design. I love the fact that the drop zone is incredibly punishing on that hole. If you're going to go out of bounds on the easiest hole, one of the easiest holes of the tournament, you should have a terrible drop zone spot that doesn't allow you to save par. If you wanted to save par, don't hit the first available. So McBeth has then this crazy drop zone. No chance of making it. He ends up getting a bogey. And then Gossage misses the putt on 16. McBeth has a putt 5 feet closer in, but is still staring directly at the water and cashes it. And so it's a series of holes of McBeth throwing incredibly clutch shots coming off of just a blatant mistake. If Gossage had won and let's say McBeth pars on 17 like he should have, and then pars 18 plays the exact same, Gossage throws the hero shot, gets the birdie, right? So let's say that's how it plays out. We would say the moment McBeth lost that tournament was hole 15. That's the story that we would be telling right now. And so for him to turn around and play 16 and 17 the way that he did, overcoming the mistake on 17 that wasn't, he threw the disc a little too high on his drive. It's not like 15 in terms of the level of egregiousness. But for him then to play the clutch shots and then just barely come up short on the putt on 18, but then hit the island and take it down after Aaron goes OB. It's just even more impressive by the context of the round that happened before.
The only way that this whole thing could have been more awesome is if he hit that one on 18. If he walked it off with that putt on that basket with the chance that you could catch the cage and roll down out of bounds and lose the tournament, I mean, it was going to be pretty incredible. Yep. But, Aaron Gossage played great. That's the thing you got to say, right? This was not some kind of collapse. Yes, he does have the ignominious distinction of being the only player ever to blow a 3-stroke lead in the final round of Worlds. But, he lost to the greatest player in the history of the sport. And it's not like he was awful. He didn't play his best, for sure. He was clearly nervous. He missed some putts. But he also battled back. He started carding birdies. He didn't melt down in that round and just give it to Paul. Right. His shot on 18 was ultra clutch. If he wins, we're talking about that being the ultra clutch moment as opposed to McBeth on 17.
Yep.
And I mean, it's just a great final round. I said this in the React show, but in a lot of ways, this was a more tense, more sort of amazing final round than we got last year. And, you can talk about what happened on 18. And of course, the stickiness of that memory is just remarkable. Sure. The putt from Conrad, The throw in from Conrad was, something that you're only going to see once a century.
Mm-hmm.
Like one of those moments that just is indelible in your mind if you're a sports fan.
Yep.
And the thing is, like, up to that point, McBeth was in the lead. It looked like he was going to win.
Yeah.
We came into 18. He pured the drive. Like, this was over. It was going to be a walk-in. It was kind of dull in some ways.
Discraft was walking up with McBeth's commemorative disc and had to like stick it under their shirt afterwards because
tuck and run.
Shot. Yeah.
But this round with McBeth behind, that was something else, man.
Yeah.
Like, McBeth is not behind by 3 strokes. I mean, I actually wonder when's the last time he was down by more than 3 strokes going into a final round. I'm not going to be able to like pull that stat at this moment right now, but like it's rare because, again, it's been 10 years of him winning or finishing in second place at the World Championships. Think about that.
A decade.
Think about that. 10 years. Mm-hmm. That's really something else.
I am going to give Gossage a little bit of quick credit on terms of the 23 for 23 times of someone up by 3+ strokes winning. That does include final 9 round formats where coming back
and like the old school, like 9 rounders, right?
Right. So coming back from 3 strokes or more with final 9 is very different than a world of like coming back in a 5 round tournament where the final round is 18. So
you have 27 holes instead of 18.
Right. Yes.
With a final 9. Yeah.
Well, is this 3 strokes or more? Because I was imagining it like I'm coming into final 9 and I'm up on you by 3 strokes. There's 9 holes to play.
I don't know.
We'll have to check with Statmando. We'll come back with the clarification, but I'm trying to give Aaron Gossage some credit here. In that world, I think that it's even less likely that you come back from 3+ strokes. So,
in 4 of his 5 previous wins, McBeth had the lead in the final round. He came back to win in 14 Portland Worlds from 2 strokes down in his playoff win versus Ricky. Goodness. I mean, the stats here are they're just wild. Like, McBeth has more Elite Series and major wins than Gossage has played Elite Series and major tournaments. McBeth has 55 wins and Gossage has played 31 tournaments, which I think, of course, speaks to not only the longevity of McBeth, but also how impressive it is that Aaron Gossage, coming off of a very solid season, by the way, was able to show up and perform at this level. And, I said it earlier in the week, if Gossage had won, I think people would have been, trying to write this off as some kind of fluky tournament, fluky worlds, this, that, and the other thing. But frankly, everybody played the same courses.
Yep.
It's not obvious to me that Gossage is like clearly more advantaged on these courses than other players on tour.
Absolutely.
And he outplayed pretty much everybody he literally outplayed everybody except Paul McBeth. And for much of the weekend, he was better than Paul.
Yeah, there is no asterisk for Gossage, for McBeth, for anybody. This was a full Worlds tournament with everybody here. No questions about it. Whoever won this deserved to win this. I think what's really interesting, and maybe makes it even more impressive, is that McBeth's event rating, that you can find this on Ulti World's Inside the Numbers article. This was done by Justin Westfall over on Ulti World Disc Golf's website. Go check it out. He points out that with a 1054 event rating, this was McBeth's lowest winning rating at the World Championship. 1054 is not that high rated for a winning tournament. I mean, Conrad won last year with 1062. So the 1054, the fact that this was the lowest winning rating shows that nobody was really playing their best golf per se. And for McBeth to still be able to grind it out against the injuries, against the poor performances in earlier rounds, against just a lower rating and not playing to his ceiling, shows just not only does McBeth have some of the most elite skill sets in the game, he also has one of the most elite winning attitudes in the game.
Think about this. McBeth hadn't won a tournament since he won Throwdown the Mountain in April. And he hadn't won an Elite Series since mid-March, early March even, at Waco.
Yep.
Months. It's September.
Yeah.
And then he goes out and he wins the Worlds. And he did it not playing his best.
Right.
And he just was grittier and more clutch than anybody else at the tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty incredible stuff. And I'm already excited, and I know you are, Josh, for 2023 Worlds, which, by the way, is Wednesday to Sunday next year.
Thank goodness.
Wednesday to Sunday. USDGC also this year moving to Wednesday to Sunday. I guess Thursday to Sunday, right? For a 4-round USDGC. And so we're kind of converging to all of these tournaments ending on Sunday. And we're not talking about non-golf things today. We're going to talk purse watch, and that's about it. But we're gonna have a whole other show on Thursday all about Worlds, some of the media things, the courses, Emporia, the trophies, all of that other stuff, along with some other segments about the golf. But today is just about the golf. Okay. Let's talk about Kristin Tattar. I mean, just literally historic in many ways. Opens up a 5-shot lead in round 4 and shoots one of the great rounds ever at the World Championships. And we'll be looking forward to talking with her tomorrow on our Upshot interview series. She shot the highest ever average rating at a World Championships in FPO, over 1,000 rated. She had 2 of the 8 best rounds ever recorded by rating at a Worlds. And what I found so impressive is that she did it in a way where it looked 100% entirely sustainable. There were no like miraculous throw-ins. There were no aces. There was nothing like super lucky bounces. It was just like putting the disc on the ground in the spot that you wanted it, and then putting the approach shot next to the basket and tapping in the putt. And it was just a clinical performance all around, from the drives to the upshots to the putting. And she wins by 8 strokes. That's the most since 2009, when Valerie Jenkins won by 14. Now, how you slice it. This was a level of dominance that can't be overstated. And I think in some ways it feels like it's being a little bit cheapened because Paige didn't play very well. And I think there was some kind of expectation that we were going to get this showdown between Kristin and Paige. But instead, it was Henna Blomroos who finished in second place, 8 shots back, who played great. Yeah. Averaged over 980 on the week. Was throwing the disc better than I've ever seen her throw it, and certainly the best of the week. The putting wasn't there. And, if you watched literally any of the last 3 rounds, you saw Henna struggling with the putter. But this was just a capstone event on one of the great seasons we've seen in FPO in some time.
And we were talking about how disappointing it would be for Kristin not to win this event, because she has had just a miraculous, an incredible season. But it's fitting to me that she was able to win this event. I really think it fits well. She was 3rd in strokes gained tee to green at 27.3. Henna and Holland were the only 2 who beat her, the other 2 podium finishers. In strokes gained putting, she was 5th. Own, Valerie, Aria Castorita, who finished 29th. So great putting performance, but not really in contention. And then Missy were ahead of her. And then in OB strokes are a little bit more difficult because of the cut, but it looks like Sarah Gilpin was the only other player. I'm assuming that Chelsea Howells did not make the cut. She only has 2 OB, but finished plus 13. Sarah Gilpin finished at 28th. I don't remember where the cut was for FPO.
It was above that.
Okay.
Or it was below that,
It was below that. Okay,
so she made the cut.
Sarah Gilpin had 7. After that, Kristin and Henna had 8. And then you have to start falling down to people who... Evelina, I think, at 10 is next. So, not only does Kristin have an excellent strokes gained performance, it's just the OB, which is not taken into account there, also was just incredibly clean from Kristin. All around dominant. All around game that was incredibly strong. Circle 1, circle 2. It didn't matter for Kristin. It didn't matter. It doesn't matter. Like, I think you said it great. It doesn't matter which way you slice it. Kristin just played all around extraordinary golf. And for her to come into that final round with a 5-stroke lead already, I mean, I think you said 3 strokes and I said 4 strokes was the margin that you had to be within in order to win an FPO. Now, granted, when you start spreading out the leaderboard, I think it's a little different because you're only depending on one person to have a bad round.
Yeah, we were talking about that before the 4th round when there were a lot of people up within 5 or 6 strokes.
Correct. So already, Kristin's, though, out there in round 1, more strokes ahead than you and I thought possible before round 4, been our speculation, to come back and win. And then for her to be able to extend that lead by 3 more strokes, it's just insane. It's incredible.
While laying up late.
Right. Yes. Well, she probably could have done more if she really wanted to. It's exceptional.
She went 8 under in the front 9. It was insane. And again, it didn't look insane.
Yeah.
Because it was just clean shot after clean shot after clean shot after made putt after made putt.
Yep.
And partly that's the way the course is played. But I mean, it's just amazing to see her clinical from 250 feet out. You know, just up shots inside the circle every time. So many looks. And if she was just a little outside circle 1, she was still hitting the putts.
Mm-hmm.
Straddle, feet don't move off the ground. Just hip pop and a snap of the wrist. I mean, it was awesome. Playing a little hurt.
Yes. 52% birdie rate. She birdied more than half of the holes on this weekend.
Yeah, it's the most under par performance of the season. 38 down. And I think that speaks to well-tuned courses for FPO. There were some soft par 4s out there. Let's be honest. Emporia Country Club with no wind was very attackable and very scoreable. But it's nice to see FPO players having opportunities to make some sweet shots. And like Hannah's Eagle on that very short par 3 in the front 9 at ECC.
Par 4.
Was one of the highlights. Par 4.
Yep.
Was one of the highlights of the tournament.
Yep.
And, you know, attackable holes for Eagle is fun.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we don't get that in FPO that often, and it was fun to watch her drive the green and then tap in the putt. So, you know, I think well-tuned courses for the players and just nobody could compete. Paige was pushing too hard.
Mm-hmm.
Hannah couldn't putt. Evelina couldn't putt. And other players didn't have enough of the ability on the fairways to match, even if they were out putting Kristin.
Holland couldn't stay in bounds.
Yep.
Kristin had 8 OB strokes and Holland had 19. But, I mean, granted, I think this is her second World Championship. Did she play last year? I think so.
Holland Handley, I will look it up. But I think
she said she took last cash last year. I think I was reading an Instagram post from her. Either way, for Holland to jump up into 3rd, just incredible.
She played 2021 Worlds and 2021 U.S. Women's.
Okay.
She finished 28th at both tournaments. This year she finished 3rd.
So good.
Yeah.
It's so good.
I mean, there's some very exciting young players out there right now.
There are.
But, I mean, Kristin's been the best player this season.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing that's really holding her back from being like the obvious lights out, 100% guaranteed lock player of the year is that she's had to miss time because of the injury, because she got COVID. What do you got? You got something. You're looking skeptical.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to say the only thing that's stopping her from being the outright favorite player of the year, I think the only thing stopping her from being the outright favorite player of the year is hole 18 at Champions Cup. Like that hole goes
Fair.
different. And tell me how you make an argument against Kristin. So that to me is the big reason, the big holdback. I think player of the year is a fascinating discussion right now for both divisions.
Maybe a conversation we can have Thursday or sometime in the next couple weeks as we build up towards the end of the season We have the Silver Series coming up this weekend in Pittsburgh. It's the last spot to pick up some points before the playoffs begin with the Green Mountain Championships. They're worth 1.25x the normal events. They cut it down the field, and they cut it down again for MVP Open, and then we're on to USDGC Throw Pink, as well as the Tour Championship. So we are going to take a quick break right now. When we come back, we're going to look back at our top storylines coming into Worlds. We're going to do the purse watch, and we're going to talk about the players in the top 10 and what their finish means for them. Don't go anywhere. It's the Upshot. The Upshot is presented by Pound Disc Golf, makers of the best bags in the sport. Well, it's time. Rufus Round 2. Unlike Round 1, which was released as pre-orders, Round 2 will be released in batches over the coming weeks. Starting things off, the electric blue and purple colorway. They're ready to ship, so make sure you head over to pounddiscgolf.com and have those mouse clicks ready to go to grab yourself a Rufus bag today. Welcome back to the Upshot. McBeth is so clutch, man. How ridiculous was that?
It's pretty wild.
Every time. 16 putt, 17 shots, 17 putt.
I don't know why I doubt it, man.
16 island again. God, it's amazing. It's time to get to our purse watch. And it's a good one indeed. $200,000. It's the first time we've ever seen a payout this big outside of the Tour Championship. It's the second largest purse in disc golf history behind the 2021 DGPT Championship, $250K, and basically sets the record for every single payout category so far this season. $200,000 in the purse, $128,500 added cash, $20,000 to the MPO winner, $11,000 to the FPO winner. These are blowout numbers, Josh. Mm-hmm. And it improved on last year's payout by a little over 15%. So a nice bump up. And I think, that's going to set a new standard for what's going to be expected at a World Championship payout.
Yep. And I'm curious, I know we're talking about this Thursday. I'm curious to know what it looks like in a world where you add spectator numbers that could have been higher to a purse at World Championships. So,
yeah, well said.
Anyway,
up and down the top 10 players setting record, cash numbers for themselves. McBeth is over $70,000 now on the season. Could he get to that 100K mark? It seems possible. Kristin Tattar, well positioned if she has a strong finish to the season to probably reset the new FPO single season record after Missy Gannon set it last year. We have not heard what the DGPT Championship payout is going to be yet, but you have to imagine it's going to be at or above 250K that they did last year. So pretty impressive stuff, and great to see the players able to take advantage. But, at the end of the day, it's still all about the disc sales, Josh. Mm-hmm. Now I go out to the Fly Mart and you got half the top 10 out there selling discs. Mm-hmm. I mean, Kristin Tattar sitting there signing discs. I mean, Grace's sold out, long line. McBeth had a line of 7,500 people waiting to get the new Athena disc, which, by the way, what a swaggy move to come out with a new disc during Worlds, right before Worlds, with 6 letters in the title, which he acknowledged was about winning 6 World Championships and then winning the World Championship to set number 6.
So swaggy.
You got nothing.
It's just like I don't even. You see things like this in other sports occasionally. I think of famously. Do you remember the season? I don't remember what year it was exactly. Baltimore Ravens. Lamar Jackson wins MVP for the season. They come in and just have an amazing season. Well, their season opener was at the Dolphins. And after their game, they blow the Dolphins out week 1. Is it John Harbaugh? Is he the Dolphins coach? Or
John Harbaugh.
Harbaugh. Not Jim. Jim's the college one, former San Francisco.
And former 49ers coach.
Yeah, former 49ers coach. Okay. I can never remember which one it is. So John hides a football at the Dolphin Stadium and said, we'll come back and get this, because the Super Bowl was held in Miami that year. Said, we'll be back for this at the time of the Super Bowl. And then they get blown out. I think they get the bye in round 1, and then like second round just get blown out of the playoffs and never go back to Miami. And they don't make the Super Bowl. Like, those are the kind of stories that resonate in my head. So for McBeth to like actually pull it off is just so swaggy. It's incredible.
It's incredible. Let's take a look back at the storylines that we talked about in our part 2 of our preview for Worlds, just to kind of go through and think about what were we talking about ahead of time and where are we now. So here's our storylines. Kristin Tattar, is she ready to win her first Worlds? Yeah, she was ready.
That aged well.
A lot of chat about the new UDisc win probability statistic that came out. It was referenced a lot in the broadcast as well. She was a 58% chance to win before the tournament. And she was a plus 170 in our betting contest, which is less than 58%, more like 45% or something like that. I don't know the exact number.
Crazy odds for an individual sport, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I thought 58% was too high. After round 1, she was up to 85%. And I was like, look, I know she played great this round. I know that she's the favorite, but 85%? It does feel like maybe they called it.
Did she ever trail?
No. Well, I thought at the end of a round. She was down by a stroke to Henna in the middle of round 3.
That's what I thought so. Man, could you imagine if she'd played the entire tournament not trailing?
Ever? Yeah.
Ever?
It's kind of weird because she didn't tee off. Like, there were obviously people in round 1 who had a lead over her, but that doesn't really count, right?
Yeah.
But she never trailed at the end of a round. She had a 2-stroke lead after round 1, I think. 2 strokes after round 2. Tied after round 3. 5 strokes after round 4. 8 strokes after to win 5. It.
Yeah. Incredible.
Yes.
Good storyline there from us.
What was our next one?
No obvious MPO favorite.
I stand by it.
I'm with you on that one. I think it's the right storyline.
I mean, look at who could have won this thing. Like
Kristin
Tattar, Chris Clemens, Calvin Heimberg.
Yes.
Paul, obviously. Mm-hmm. But there were guys.
The fact that Paul has to overcome the largest deficit in World's history in order to get the win back from second place shows that I think this is a pretty accurate storyline. And it's funny because talking in a world where there's more competition than ever in the FPO side, Kristin dominates. And then the MPO side is the one that just no obvious MPO favorite was at 100% accurate.
But I also think, you got to remember, like, Ricky, who was the presumptive favorite, I think, finished terribly at DMC. And, like, obviously it doesn't really matter. And yet here he is, and he finishes outside of the top 10.
Yep.
For the second time this season at a major. I think that's the first time in his career he's missed the top 10 twice at majors in a single season. Mm-hmm. I mean, that just hasn't happened. He hasn't missed the top 10 at a major since 2014. And now he's done it twice this year. The Rick major pressure thing is real.
Yes, it is. And I don't know if this is just the best time to talk about it. I said this in the Rapid React show, and I'm going to say it again. If professional disc golf ended right now, right? If Paul McBeth and Ricky Wysocki retired,
shut it down.
No
one wants to watch it anymore.
No one's allowed to play Frisbee golf anymore. If that was to happen, Ricky would be nothing more than an antagonist in the storybook of Paul McBeth. Like, McBeth's dominance, and if this trend continues, that becomes even more so true. Ricky's had strong performances. He's had good major finishes. He's won 2 majors. But Statmando gives us this, where they point out Ricky has won
He's won 2 worlds.
Yeah, aren't those his only 2 majors?
No, he's won many more majors than that. He won the Japan Open, he won the Aussie Open.
That's right.
He won the PDGA Championship back in 2011. Mm-hmm. He won the European Masters, which was like a weird European Open replacement back in 2016. But you don't really remember any of them because they were all kind of like the adjunct majors.
Yes. So Ricky has gone since he's gone 13 straight majors without a win.
He hasn't won a major in 5 years.
And here's the other important fact with that. So he's got the many other majors. He has famously no USDGC win.
True.
And he has not won World since 2017. The back-to-back was a big deal. I think, though, that if Ricky was to retire today, you would talk about Ricky the way you talk about Will Schusterich. He played amazing. You don't think?
I
think the only reason you don't talk about Will nearly as much is because he's farther removed.
But here's the thing about Schusterich, right?
Okay.
So first of all, let me look at it in terms of majors and like Elite Series.
Okay.
Will won the 3 USDGCs.
Yes.
Right. He also won Beaver State Fling in 2013. I mean, he's been out of the game a while. So if you're new to the game, you're probably like, I don't even know who Will Schusterich is. Well, great player. One of the tremendous talents, like, Eagle McMahon like natural ability. But he couldn't stay healthy and didn't have a sustained level of excellence. Ricky has been sustained excellence year in and year out. Now, yes, majors have been a troublesome spot for him, but he's won Elite Series events basically every single year for a decade. I just think that the longevity and the overall quantity of wins. So like Schusterich has, 6 NT and major wins. Okay, so NT standing in for Elite Series.
Yeah,
now,
I mean,
that's
Ricky's
sort of
got
like
significantly more.
There's a muddy distinction. But if you look at Ricky and what he has done at majors and NTs in terms of wins, let me count it up. I mean, it's more than I can count. It's like 30.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a fair comparison. From a majors perspective, you may be right. But I think the fact that Ricky is out here winning big regular season tournaments on a regular basis does make him a much more relevant player. I don't follow PGA Tour closely enough to get the right analog here, but like it's Rory McIlroy, right? It's like somebody who's incredibly good but isn't like winning the majors.
Sure.
But then again, I don't know that you're wrong about saying that he's an antagonist to McBeth's story. And he might be that even if he wins more majors.
Maybe. I think if you win another world championship, then you probably, because it's different to win a couple, go some years without, have the Lyme disease, get another one, right? Like,
sure.
I think that makes him more relevant. And don't get me wrong, I love Rick. We had Rick as the favorite coming into this weekend. Sure. I think he's been probably week in, week out the best player this year. He won Player of the Year last year. He was the best week in, week out player last year. But at the end of the day, when Ricky says, I just value consistency more than big wins, I think he's full of it. And I think that if anybody were to pick the kind of career and storylines of any other of anybody that they could write for themselves, they would take the McBeth. Where McBeth goes with the longest drought, but he still wins another world championship, and he won USDGC last year. And if he wins USDGC this year, I don't care if Ricky wins both GMC and MVP and the Pro Tour Championship. I still think people would pick McBeth's season, right? Like that's.
Ricky could go back in time in the Space Mobile and win more Elite Series, and it's still not going to be enough.
It's still not. And so like I know Ricky can be the best player week in and week out.
Yeah.
But when I asked you this, and I asked you this as the kind of the hypothetical example during one of the React shows, who won Player of the Year in 2012?
Yep. I don't know. Who won the most NTs in 2015? No clue.
I don't know. And we don't care. And we're not going to care in 10 years if Ricky wins the most Elite Series for 5 seasons consecutively, but McBeth gets to number 10. Sorry, Rick. I think you're a great player. I love Rick as a person. I think he's great for the sport. I think he's an exciting player to watch and has been an excellent antagonist to Paul McBeth. But I'm sorry, the world still turns around Mr. McBeth.
At the end of the day, you can see how much it meant to him. He missed a putt for eagle on 16, I think.
This was
it wasn't 16, 'cause
heartbreaking.
that's the island hold. But it was 14-50, somewhere in the back nine. And, should have had it, right? Like circle's edge, kind of putt that when Rick is right, he's making. He did not putt well this week. And he goes over to the fence and he puts his head down on the fence for like 30 seconds. And they just leave that camera shot on him. And it's just so good. Like the directing this week on Disc Golf Network was excellent.
Yes.
And, it's just like he had his chances this week. He had his chances. He didn't play himself out of it at any point, but he couldn't capitalize on his opportunities. Interesting stuff. Let's move on to the next storyline. New winner or past champs? Well, we got a little of both, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
I take the over-under win. Josh took over 1.5 new winners. Gets one.
Yeah.
I think we got the most exciting past champ, and we got the most exciting new winner.
Yep.
Now, what's the next one, Josh?
Next one was the Young Talent Explosion. Included in that, there was an over-under about top 10 for best European not named Simon finisher. Interesting, Simon was not even the best European finisher. So, Charlie, you get the win saying that they were going to finish outside the top 10.
Simon just tapped out after a couple bad shots in round one. What are we doing out here, man?
Yep.
I hate that.
Yeah. Top European finisher was Vino Makala at 14th. But, man, talk about exciting young players. Aaron Gossage, Kristin Tattar, Holland Hanley, Ella Hansen, Hannah Blomroos. I mean,
Hannah and Evelina are still younger than 23.
Yep. We're going to talk a little bit more about them when we get to top 10 finishers and what it means for them. But this was a storyline that could not have been more accurate.
Last one was, can Emporia deliver? We're going to answer that question more on Thursday. We'll just leave it at that. Let's dig into our top 10 finishers. It was a very interesting top 10. We'll start on FPO. We talked plenty about Kristin Tattar. Second place, Hannah Blomroos. Josh, I think Hannah has to feel pretty good overall about this. Now, we saw some tears from her when she kind of just let it get away. I mean, she was up by a stroke and in round 4 and then fell apart after Tattar big putted her a couple times and just could not, 3-putted to double bogey, did it again in the final round. Clearly has this weird gap in her putting between about 10 feet and in where she makes everything. And then from 10 to about 23 feet, it's like this weird vortex where the putt will not go in the basket. And then she's actually a pretty good putter from outside 25 feet. Not elite, but like not terrible. And I think Hannah has to be like, look, I have everything that I need. I just need to work on this putting. And yes, that's a big mental block to overcome, but it's a solvable problem in the off season. I'd like to see her go back into the lab and actually rework how she physically throws the putt, because I think her actual release style and angle and everything and the way that her arm moves is not conducive to having good consistency on the putting green. But at the end of the day, I think Hannah Blomroos still has multi-time major potential.
Take everything we've said about Evelina this season, her putting, her performance, her potential, and just copy and paste it underneath Hannah from this tournament. And I think it's true. It's true. I think Evelina she has been the better player in the past, but Hannah showed to us this weekend. I have never seen a disc fly as beautifully as the way Hannah's did on so many of those drives.
Some of the best, like pound for pound throwing we saw at the tournament, period.
Yes. Period.
Textbook insane shots. Anthony Barella, maybe the only player to challenge Hannah in terms of just raw wow factor with the drives.
I think it's been easy to fade Hannah because she hasn't been as consistent, performing as well as Evelina and Kristin. But I think Hannah proved to us this weekend, and I think hopefully proved to herself, she's got what it takes to be a multi-time major winner.
Third place finisher, Holland Hanley. Josh?
This is the world to her. I don't know how long the contract she signed, but whether it's in the negotiating power, the ability, and just to herself of I can stay on tour and this can be a viable career for me. I think Holland Hanley, after Kristin Tattar, this is the most important top 10 in FPO, what this means for them. Holland Hanley's world will be changed because of her podium here today. And I think it may very well set the trajectory moving forward for Holland Hanley as a professional disc golfer moving forward.
Going to have a big old sponsorship target.
Yeah.
She is one that you'd love to wrap up for 3-4 years on a contract because she's got a lot of tools. Fourth place finisher, Missy Gannon. I think it's really impressive to see Missy finish top 5 out here on these courses. She has now improved her performance every single year that she's played at the Worlds. In 2018, she finished 23rd. 19, she finished 13th. Got her first top 10 last season, 8th place, and then finishes 4th. To me, I mean, we're seeing hashtag Big Money Missy out here doing what she does. I mean, this is one of the best players in the division, and she doesn't always have the upside to win on a lot of courses. I think that was true this weekend, but rock solid putter, great all-around player, and deserved top 5.
We have two players who tied for 5th. I'll take Paige Pierce. I think for Paige Pierce, it's another letdown season. I know she's got 2 majors. I know that she's got several, 3 Elite Series wins. She may still very well win Player of the Year. But for Paige, it's got to be about number 6. It's got to be about getting the 6th world title. And I think after the heartbreaking finish last season and kind of the entire season storyline of the pressure she put on herself going into getting the 6th, I think this one was seen as an opportunity. It wasn't even seen as like a redemption story, though. It was, this is the next world championship. I have a chance to get number 6 here, right? It was not in any way built around the same way that Worlds last year in Utah was. And for Paige still to come up and have a poor performance at courses that really give her, I mean, it's courses that she can excel on. It's not US Women's. It's not Utah, where distance was not the name of the game. This was a course where, even though Paige may not be the furthest thrower in the division right now, she's still an elite. She's still top 5. And so for her to come up short here, I think is a big disappointment in her view. And even everything else that's going to happen, I think she's going to be disappointed about not getting number 6, especially since it was in Emporia.
It's her first time not making the top 2 since 2012. Evelina Salonen tied Pierce in 5th place. And for Evelina, honestly, it's a little bit kind of a broken record story. I mean, great thrower of the disc and just insufficient putting ability. And I mean, there's not much more to say about it. I think she was outshined by Henna. I still think that Evelina is clearly proven to be the kind of probably the overall higher ceiling player in terms of consistency. But, until she can fix the putting, it's another chapter in this book of, wow, top 2-1 strokes gained tee to green and big time putting struggles.
Yep. 7th place, Owen Scoggins. One word for you for Owen Scoggins. Dog. She has to be the biggest dog of this tournament. For her to go through the injury, I said after round 1 she was going to DNF. Man, was I wrong. For Owen to finish in 7th place despite the injuries, despite the course not suiting well, it's a lot of the same things with Missy Gannon. Owen Scoggins is a 41-year-old, can't throw the disc maybe but 70% of some of these furthest throwers, who was injured this week and comes out to a course that absolutely gives some advantage to distance. And for her to come to in 7th place, Owen has nothing left to prove to anybody. I hope she gets an Elite Series win. I hope she gets a major win. I don't care if she does, though. She has nothing left to prove. Owen Scoggins is one of the realest players to ever play disc golf, and it's so much fun to watch her play disc golf.
Swag factor on 1,000. If you weren't listening along with our subscriber bonus segments, we actually had to retire her in our Dog of the Day contest because she was winning too often. So it's now the Owen Scoggins Dog of the Day award, which we will be handing out after events now for the rest of the season. Kat Murch finishes in 8th place and had some nice round. I mean, she had a really nice final round, a couple bogeys late, but really was putting together some strong performances throughout the week. And, you know, I don't really know what to expect from where she's supposed to finish. You know, she's like ranked in the 10 to 12 range right now in most ranking sets, and she finished ahead of that. I think it's great to see Kat Murch get a top 10 finish, and this is steps forward for a young player. I don't think this is like quite as shocking or surprising or as game-changing as Holland Handley finishing in the top 10, but Kat Murch is clearly a player who week in and week out you can expect to see up at the top of the leaderboard.
Haley King is one of our tied for 9th players to round out our top 10. Look, 9th for Haley King is definitely not playing to her potential, but I actually contend that this is a bigger deal than people are making it out to be. For her to get back into the top 10 with a 7 under performance on the final day, bumping her up to 16 under par, I actually think is a pretty big deal. Consistency is Haley King's biggest problem. That proved to be true this week as well. But I think when you look at Haley King as a player, she's on a 1-year contract with Innova. She hasn't been touring as consistently this season. She's still trying to figure, she's a very young player trying to figure out what she wants her disc golf career to look like. I think when it comes to negotiation times, having top 10 streaks, having top 10 finishes in the majors, as those finishes continue to mean more because the division gets more competitive, having those finishes is important. And so even though it may not seem significant fighting back from, she came in at 10th place at the round and bumped herself up to 9th, that may not seem super significant. I think it's actually a more important factor than people are giving her credit for, and definitely not her ceiling, but glad she was able to get in the top 10.
Valerie Mondahano is your last top 10 finisher, tied for 9th with Haley King. Didn't have her A game this weekend. Just as simple as that. Wasn't really giving herself birdie looks. She had the lowest Circle 2 in regulation number of any player inside the top 17, I think. Yes. So the thing is, her putting was spectacular. She had 40% of her Circle 2 putts and persevered despite having 18 OB strokes. To get a top 10 finish when you just don't really have it that week, I think is a sign of the maturity of her game. Not what she wanted, obviously, but sure. I think Mondahano showing you that she's going to be somebody who we're going to be talking about for a long time.
Yep. Let's move over to MPO then.
Not much more to say about McBeth. What do you got to say about Erin Gossage, Josh?
Erin Gossage has the opportunity now to negotiate with sponsors. Erin Gossage has an incredible finish. Charlie, you listed him as one of the sleepers to watch for this week, which is an incredible choice there. I really think that Erin Gossage is making a name for himself in the disc golf community and will do so for years to come. This is a huge deal for Erin. And it wasn't just taking second place at Worlds. It was, even though he got beat out by McBeth, it was the manner in which he takes second that's just truly a big deal. I don't think you can understate how much this must mean to Erin Gossage in his career.
Sick performance. The goose is very much loose.
Yes.
Tied for third, 3 players. I'll start with Kristin Tattar. Come on. What a great story, man. He shoots a 13 under in round 1, playing in the B pool. And everyone's like, I don't know. Like, is he the lead? I actually totally disagree with anybody who didn't say he was the leader. They're like on DGN, like pretending he doesn't exist.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait a minute. This dude just shot a 13 under over here. He has the stroke lead and he shot, it was like 1088 rated. What more do you need to know? And of course, he ended up finishing well because he played so awesome in that round and then backed it up with some other strong performance. I think Kristin Tattar is somebody who on open courses with a lot of length like this, you have to consider as a threat to win the tournament, period. He's been hurt. He hasn't been totally right, but we saw him do this at LVC. We saw him do it here. DDO next year, make sure you put him in your picks. Like if you need some fantasy sleeper points, there it is. Because I think that he has real talent. And to come out of the B pool and finish in the top 3, I'm telling you, that's a dog move right there.
Next up and tied for third is Chris Clemens. We've known how Chris plays, his game, this is, we know who Chris Clemens is. This is not the resurgence of a Chris Clemens that is going to challenge and win more majors. He might get a major, but I don't expect Chris Clemens to be a top feature. I think what this does for Chris is it establishes he's still a good player. He's still got it. And the contract that he gets from DD is absolutely worth it, because you're going to have events like this, like USDGC, where he pops up on lead card, has strong finishes, and gives himself the opportunity to do some good for both himself and his sponsor. Chris Clemens is one of those staples of the sport who we've seen around for years. And I think this is just proof that Chris Clemens, as long as he wants to keep playing the game of disc golf, he'll be a welcome face and one that we just love to see. It's a great performance for him. He's got to be thrilled. His sponsors have got to be thrilled. And it just means that Chris is just going to keep hanging around as Chris does.
No player that made the cut had fewer OB strokes. Chris Clemens went OB just 4 times out here in 5 rounds. Pretty amazing. The other player tied for third was Matty O. Think about this. Matty O has the longest ever gap between his first Worlds podium and his most recent Worlds podium. 17 years. He did it in 2005, finished top 3. He does it again in 2022. He doesn't quite have the mindset to win these tournaments yet. I just feel like there's like a little bit of a gap in the mental game side that is preventing him from winning even an Elite Series right now. And I think we saw him make some mistakes in the final round that kind of kept him out of being up in the mix. But still, he is one of the best players on tour. He's one of the funniest, most interesting players on tour. And to see him back in the top 3 after almost 20 years, that's pretty special.
Yep, it is. Next up, Calvin Heimberg. This is a disappointment for Calvin, finishing in 6th. He came in tied for third.
You remember how much trash you were talking to me when I didn't put him in my top 5 after 3 rounds?
I did. I was giving you a hard time. This is just like Worlds last year. A final round fell apart, and Calvin finishes outside, 6th now. I don't remember where he finished last year, but remember he was on lead card and just had a really poor final round.
Somebody get this man a caddy.
Someone get this man a caddy. Calvin has demonstrated to us that he has incredible talent. His raw ability to play this game is so high. His mental game is not there yet. And I'm sorry, but contract year Calvin cannot just be one of the 4 Innova guys who finish at the top 10. Yeah, he's still Innova's top player. He's still the best player that they've got on their team. But with a lot of young and up-and-coming players like Aaron Gossage and others, Calvin Heimberg can't just be a young player with a lot of talent. He's got to start cashing in and delivering results, especially at the biggest stages. It's a disappointing performance and a disappointing finish for Calvin, I'm sure.
Pretty good weekend overall, by the way, for Trilogy. We can talk about that more next.
Don't worry, I've got some thoughts on Thursday.
Okay, we'll get to it. Tied for 7th, Anthony Barella is your first top 7 finisher. Wow, this guy was good, tee to green. I think he led the tournament. He did, by about a little more than 2 strokes over Cole Redolin. AB's putting is just too much of a weakness for him to win a world championship right now. But goodness gracious, when he threw that one on 17 all the way up and around the corner, and we hear from Eric McCabe, course designer, on the broadcast that he's literally never seen anybody throw it there off the tee. He's so amazing watching him throw the disc, just absolutely blasting it. He was throwing into the Bushnell speed gun tent. I didn't actually see what his high number was, but he's throwing in the 70s, maybe close to the 80 mile per hour range with a Frisbee in his hand, which is just crazy. So, look, what else is there to say about AB? It looked like he had a chance to win, but you got to be able to hit more than 17% of your Circle 2 putts.
Mm-hmm. Next, tied for 7th is Joel Freeman. Look, it's a good finish. It's right where, Joel Freeman's kind of been in the mix, but never really been a serious, he's going to win this tournament contender. It's interesting. His slow stretch was actually holes 13 to 17. Holes 14, 15, 16 are all birdie possibilities, and he took pars through that stretch. Joel Freeman could have shot a 12 under final round quite easily and found himself up in 5th place or 6th place, passing Calvin Heimberg.
It's getting a little bit of an anti-clutch reputation.
Yeah, I mean, it's Joel. It just feels like this is Joel performance. His entire season averages right around here, and that's fine.
Totally,
but
nothing
huge.
Good. Top 10 of the major. I mean,
top 10
can't
major,
take anything away from that. It's a strong performance yet again. But you're right. He hasn't been able to get all the way to that top gear. Tied for 9th. First up, 2 very interesting players here tied for 9th. First up is Nate Sexton. I just couldn't be more impressed. For him at his age, showing up to Worlds the day before the tournament, acknowledging that he doesn't really have a great chance, and then still finishing in the top 10 is incredible. It's incredible. I mean, he had a 52% birdie rate. He was just really good all around. I don't know what else to say. Like, these aren't the courses that you'd expect him to succeed on, and yet he still did. I think you have to consider Nate Sexton like a legitimate threat at major championships. Like, hopefully he doesn't get hurt before USDGC again this year, because I want to see him go out there. I think he can be a top 5 guy at USDGC.
You know the Marshawn Lynch interview where he says, "I'm just here not so I don't get fined"?
I do.
Every major, Nate Sexton says, "I'm just here so I can sell more Firebirds." Like, that's all he's got to do. He shows up, takes top 10 at a major. That's all he does all season, and then just sells Firebirds like he's printing $100 bills.
You're not wrong.
Right? That's Nate Sexton shows up. I don't know these courses. I don't play them much. I'm out of practice. I'm not really expecting to win much. I'm just here to sell some Firebirds. And then he takes top 10. What more can you ask for in a week? It's pretty successful in my book if you're Nate Sexton.
Nate Sexton's going to be a Hall of Famer, folks.
Yeah. Ben Callaway is your other tied for 9th, rounding out your top 10 MPO. Ben he's got to be pleased. I think it's the same thing as Joel Freeman. You got to be happy with the top 10 finish. No taking that away from him without a doubt. The hardest thing for Ben Callaway is, like, you see him at the top at some important events, and you're like, oh, wow, that's right. Like, Ben Callaway's a really good player. And then he just kind of fades and disappears. And then you have other times where just, like, you don't ever see Ben Callaway. He's kind of, I don't know really what to make.
I'll tell you what it is. What it is.
Yeah, please.
He is a very smart golfer that doesn't have God-gifted skill. You know, like, he's good. He is very solid. And he had a great game plan out here. He only went OB 7 times. That's among the best at the tournament. He putted great, 94% inside the circle. That's could be the best at the tournament. There were some guys who hit 100%, but they're all like way down the leaderboard. So, like, one of the best putters.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's giving up 10 strokes to the top players, tee to green, over the course of the event. He just doesn't have the ability to, like, compete at that top tier. But top 10 for him is a great result.
That's true. Yeah.
Given where he's at in the game, I'm impressed.
I mean, he's 45th on tour right now. So, you know, he's got to be pleased with this without a doubt. Without a doubt.
So there it is, your top 10. Interesting to see what happens for these players later this season. We will talk Disc Golf Pro Tour standings and where things are with that. We're going to talk about media courses, the overall event in Emporia. I was there all week. Happy to talk about my experiences there, and a whole lot more on Thursday. So don't miss it. Kristin Tattar will join us tomorrow. We are very much hoping to speak with Paul McBeth as well. He's dealing with some logistical challenges, so we'll see if we can work that out. You're going to find out tomorrow. So are we. So that's going to do it for our Tuesday show. Thank you so much for tuning in. For Josh Mansfield, I'm Charlie Eisenhood saying, send us in your mailbag questions, okay, before I sign it off. And make sure you get yourself an UltiWorld Disc Golf subscription. Come hang out in the Discord, which was amazingly fun this week. I mean, so fun. We had so many people chatting during the live shows and just talking all week about the disc golf. I think it's the #1 place to talk disc golf right now online. So less than $4 a month, discgolf.ultiworld.com/subscribe. And again, send in your mailbag questions, upshot@ultiworld.com. We're going to get to a mailbag episode very soon. So until Thursday, we'll see you then.